Well, we're back and looking forward to this podcast. We've been quite excited. So I'm McQuade, co-founder of Think Cloud. We're joined by Paul Longley.
Good morning. Paul Longley from Think Mental Health.
And we've also got hidden in the corner, Dean.
Good morning, Dean, Head of Customer Success at Think Cloud.
And we have the legend, which is Steve Cockram, joining us. And Steve, just want a quick intro, because your world's changed, hasn't it, quite significantly since the last of the podcast?
Well, I'm still doing the things I used to do, but obviously when you're chairman of things, that usually means you smoke cigars and chair board meetings, but it wasn't as much as I was doing before. So I've actually taken a job. I thought I was unemployable. Most of my friends did. But I'm actually the Chief Performance Officer at Endava, which is an IT services company based in London, but listed on the NASDAQ around the world with about 12,000 employees around the world. And my job is really helping us build the business of the future and how we build partnerships with our key clients. So the idea of building teams inside organizations, we've been doing for years. This is now how do you begin to build true partnership, collaborative, go-to-market partnerships with clients? Because the reality is nobody really knows how efficient things will become. So the idea of just selling time and materials has gone. So there we go. I'm now a corporate executive Leon of a listed trading company. No one saw that.
And I can't even believe we've got this on camera and we've nearly failed.
Just so it's real, there's the City of London out there. That's like my office on the 13th floor. So I got back from London about a party last night about 12 o'clock. So I'm properly enjoying London. Whether my liver will cope long term.
And I think I'm just real pleased for you, because I thought you was definitely unemployable. So that means that this hope for us all. But on a real serious note, we're really lucky to have you and Becky heading up to Hull on the 9th of June. We've got a big event over at our Innovation Centre. And part of that really is Think Cloud. We've moved, and you know about us, developed over the years, and for our time with Andy's Man Club, Think Cloud, Think Mental Health. We're now making a move from managed cybersecurity provider. And we were having this conversation a couple of years ago. We're moving to a managed intelligence provider. And I wanted to just get you on air just to sort of depict that, because we're having our own internal struggles, aren't we, on culture and change. And we've got all the fantastic toolkit you've given us. Oh, you're out there in the field, driving mental health support and change. But what's the commonality between Think Cloud and Think Mental Health is we're really big on the giant tools around change. And one of the models I wanted to sort of just frame this conversation around really was we've developed an AI adoption model built around Livik's system model for change. And then on top of that, I can't pronounce the name properly, but IKIG-AI, IKIG-AI 1966. And I've spotted a pattern between them sort of two tools in terms of, if we simplify it, an organisational structure, how it gets its work done, how the people do the work, and how the technology affects it. And the argument is that they're all compounded. But then you flip that over and you look at IKIG-AI. Can you align people to do what they love into the structure? Can you align their work to what people are actually good at? And then in terms of the people, can they get paid for doing what they love? And ultimately, the technology, does the world need that? So I'll put that up on the screen so viewers can see that. But I think the event, Steve, we're going to really dig into that. But can you help us on that? Because I'm arguing that no longer is technology on its own. AI is central to that, and it's asking sort of two big questions. For an organisation, I'm arguing that, from an organisation point of view, what's our reason for being? So what's the organisation's reason for being? But we flip it over. We're also asking and challenging what's a person's reason for being inside that organisation. So I think they both go hand in hand. So I'll kick that to you, Steve.
I think the reality is you're right. The thesis would be that most people are at the moment still unconsciously incompetent. They don't understand the actual revolution bringing is going to happen to every sphere and every sector and every part of culture eventually. In a sense, by being at the front of it, we've been disrupted. IT services, if you think, AI is disrupting this sector first, because in a sense, people are going, well, why are we paying for it? Or why? I think the reality is the first wave of the digital revolution, which was really the internet, cloud, there were a lot of exciting things that happened and we were able to all be online and play with phones. This wave is a lot bigger and a lot more disruptive, and nobody really knows quite what the outcome is going to be. I'll often put up a visual, a 100-foot wave, which obviously I didn't surf, but it looks like me, and say AI is going to feel like this. You're either going to learn to surf this wave as an organization, or it is going to wipe you out. There's far more fear in this, and the human tendency, back to you, the human tendency in fear is often towards self-preservation and hope you can avoid it. So therefore, to your point, I think naming the fact that it's coming, however long it takes, you can either embrace the opportunity and actually deal with a little bit of your own fear of, gosh, I'm too old to learn new skills, or I'm not sure I'm going to be good enough to do it. But the reality is, you're either going to lead the future in your organization, or you're actually going to become probably a victim of a change that you're going to feel like you're in the jet wash of a very large wave. Because the reality is AI won't take your job, but the reality is somebody using AI who is 5 times more productive than you will probably end up doing that for you if you try and avoid the lean in, the opportunity, the shaping of it. So I think we're right at the beginning of it. I feel quite privileged to be almost at the most disrupted end of it. But we wrote on, it's almost like, how do you be a Sherpa to people who are going to make their Everest journey? I think you guys think something similar of going, how do we help organizations have somebody to walk with them? They don't really know what's possible. They don't really know what could be. And there's a lot of fear that will I have any value in this process if AI does everything, which is you.
Because you're trying to lead this change on the ground with 150 customers. I'm saying AI is coming. I'm saying AI ain't coming. I'm saying it's here. On one example, Steve, I was working with the university last week to their senior leadership team, and AI wrote and searched 50 proposals for 50 tenders for them, and over 82 billion potential tenders that could go for in the space of an hour. And the quality was astounding. Also picked one of the most complex organisations, which is British Aerospace, BAE, to do exactly the same for that as well. Would you say when we're showing things like that, and what challenges are you seeing internally and externally?
Yeah, interesting for me. It's like Steve mentioned. Then it's disrupts our massively. The main thing is clients approaching us where AI is involved in it, and clients are reaching out saying, "Right, AI had that. How do we use it? Can you bring it into us?" We're getting asked very big questions, but it's back to the structure that we're talking about. Well, what's your structure in place? Have you got a leadership team that wants to steer this from the top? Full structure about how we can implement AI successfully. At the minute, a lot of the businesses that we're working with don't fully understand that structure. It's a case of how can we use it, and they expect us to be, there you go. It's not like that. You've got to bring it in from the top with a clear process.
I'm thinking about you, Paul. So I think, Steve, you don't know this, or you might know this. How many languages can you speak now, Paul?
I can actually speak 23 different languages
At
at the same time.
And how many people can you serve at that same time at the moment?
Infinity.
Right?
Yeah.
We've digitised Paul, which you don't know, Steve, don't you, right? I think what's been interesting, wife Zoe left our business and got us to a point where she was going, went into the NHS for a year. That was their sense of happy, and she's now come back into mental health space, helping Paul, right?
Yeah.
And I'm watching digitally transform your business with our support as well, because we support you.
Yeah.
We've put you through this process around adopting AI into your business. And before I was saying to you, this is so big, would you say back to Steve on that and help anyone listening?
When I was first approached, or when I approached you about bringing AI into our business and helping us, it was scary. And to somebody who, I'm not the best with technology, but I've been using it for the last 8 years really strongly.
What's your nickname?
Sausage. That'll just show you. I'm ThinkCloud's best customer because I'm never off the phone. But what I've had to do, and what's been amazing, and we talk about people, I've brought people in to help assist with this AI adoption, because no matter how well I wanted to adopt it and how I'm really proactive in getting it into the business, I haven't got the skill set to do it. So what I've had to do is bring somebody in, because if I don't bring somebody in with that skill set, I'll get left behind.
But it was interesting watching you. I'm going to chuck this to Steve as well in a minute. Is you've worked really close with your clients around that innovation. You built that around them, keeping the human in the loop. But Steve, I want to hit you with, we've got a couple of questions for you that will go around in order. But do you think so many organisations still view AI adoption as a technology decision rather than what I'm classing it as? I think we've got to get away from models to mindset. The best model that's going to win. And I've got these, for anyone listening, that's an AI model, a large language model, like a brain in a jar. And it's an amazing thing. But once you can connect it to real data and real people, oh my God, what can I have? So just to ask that question, what do you still think of viewing AI adoption as a technology decision?
Well, I think the last research that came out in America was 95% of all AI investment so far hasn't delivered a return on capital invested. So there's an awful lot of companies that have paid for probably consultants to come in and tell them how they can make stuff. They haven't actually seen it. So there's a degree of cynicism and a degree of going, well, we actually need to see real value sooner in that process. I think everyone knows they're going to have to do it. I think people dip their toes in it. But I think in the SME world, people are so busy trying to keep the lights on and trying to basically deal with a government that keeps making it harder and harder to do business and to make a profit and employ people. It's a bit like this feels to most people highly important but low urgent. Like, I know I need to, but unless it's going to be a trigger, I have to, or I meet somebody that I trust can be a Sherpa. So, Paul would not have made the journey of transformation he has if he didn't know you, if he didn't have things like that. So if you think from an SME point of view, there's nobody who runs an SME of really a digital native and an AI native. You think how much time you spent, Leon, working on this stuff. In some ways, cloud is the perfect partner for most of the SMEs that are thinking, I ought to, but I don't know how, but I need a Sherpa. Endava isn't really working with any SMEs because they can't afford this thing. We're working with the biggest companies in the world who are literally saying the same thing. We need somebody who can partner with us to take it to the new world with them. So that would be, relational connection is becoming more valuable in business, not less. And people are actually craving acting and being with people more so than they were. And I think COVID was part of that. So in a strange way, AI doing more of the work is going to make all the connection and trust we have between the people we work with and people that we trust. You've actually got to become somebody who trusts, really knows. Well, how do I know what you're doing? In the old days, it used to take you a day to do something. If I don't trust that you're going to share the productivity increases with me, if you're going to be a good partner, that I think is becoming more valuable in business, not less. So it's that, there's a fear that AI is going to do so much. Very key level, it actually is driving us closer together. No one's been here, but nobody really knows the answers. We're all exploring in the glass, looking through glass darkly. Why people who are pioneers and connectors, it's really fun and exciting. And most of the guardians are going, oh my goodness, is it safe? Is everyone going to be okay?
Dean, I can see you laughing, Dean, just at that point where we used to be real big on it, and we got to a point where we don't really think it's true. And what Dean's done an amazing job of, I don't know if I've said this to you, but because he understands the relationship of this organisation, it's far better. Dean going out to have cups of teas and coffees, Dean reporting back going, the culture at the minute, it's not landing where I want it to be. Can leaders identify where culture is truly ready for AI before investing in new tools? And that links back to where your tool, which I think is groundbreaking, I want to have a debate on how do we deploy it.
I think most technology, the key is to go, is it the right time? Some of the best technology was ahead of where the market was. Either we didn't have the computing power, we didn't have the bandwidth, we didn't have this, that, and the other. I would say to people, if you think, do you remember the first time somebody ended up with an AI note taker appearing in your Zoom meeting or your Teams meeting? I'm going like, what the? No way you're recording anything of this. We did a webinar last night and 116 people came on to look at AI and whatever it was. I think there were 85 AI note takers joined as well. Well, the question is, did I even consider banning them all? Or did I change the way that I shared in the meeting? No, not at all. Because in the beginning, there was like, what's going on? This is Big Brother. Versus it's now become normative. So I think the reality is people's initial reaction to, oh my goodness, what's this for? Is it Big Brother? Will eventually go, we're so used to now. The honest answer is if your HR director wanted to download every email, every Slack message, every Teams message, everything that's been sent, they could do that. It's all available. Whereas what we're trying to do at the moment is to say, to your point, employee engagement surveys, the amount of money you get spent by employee engagement surveys, there's usually a 3 to 6 month lagging indicator. No one's convinced anyone did it. It's an absolute nightmare trying to persuade people to answer it. They all want to know who's going to know. And by the time it gets to the team meeting, it's 6 months in arrears. Most small organizations can do what you do, Dean, which is to go send round someone who really gets people. How are we doing really? Cups of coffee. You've got 50,000 employees. That's a real ask.
Yeah, it's a lot of coffees.
It's a lot of tea. So what we said was to go, the advice was the AI things which will work for a business is when you simplify the product to create an application that people see immediate value for. So the idea being is to say every CEO would love to know what's happening in their culture in real time. And so therefore we found we could analyze the digital exhaust of an organization, not individual messages, just anything that was in group, put it through some complex AI processes and actually give you real time and advice to go ahead of it going wrong. By the way, there's a burnout risk or there's a project time. So we're right at that point where the question is the market ready But that level of, oh my goodness, can I say anything now, anywhere, without it being used in evidence against me or positive? Our view is give people a chance to pilot it, let one team use it that actually are open to using it, and actually give them a chance to play with it and see. Initially, they'll be trying to write nasty comments to see if it comes up in the flag and takes the score down. Usually what we found is by the time people have used it for a month, everyone's gone, oh yes, like an AI note taker. And we really like, if we're honest, the fact that leaders and teams now have access to real data about what's really happening in the organization. The people who are most afraid of it are usually the people who are hiding and in some senses are not as wedded to how do we build a world-class culture. So we'll see. The honest answer is we're right at the beginning of this thing. We only launched it about a month ago and it's bleeding edge stuff. And so therefore, you're always going to have people go, oh, I'm not sure.
Just to link into context for you guys, I want you to have a debate on this with us, is so the idea, if I'm hearing you right, Steve, just make sure I've got it right for the audience as well. So there's a piece of technology that we can deploy via Teams, Slack, and your other messaging platforms.
Any integration on emails, whatever.
Any chat system, emails a lot. And what it'll do is it anonymizes who the message has been sent from, so it doesn't actually know who the messages are gone. But from a security point of view, governance, is a full playbook for the Guardians of the Galaxy with every SO and every number and every digit to tick every box. I love that, Steve, we did that. But on the top of it, the debate I've been having on this is when you look at the core skills that are in the world at the moment, we've got AI and big data, tech lead, job security, but within that sort of top 10, Steve, what I'm seeing is social influence, it's in social leadership. And I think it's something that you've taught me massively since learning more about Giant and being more consciously aware is we've got to be honest and we've got to be authentic as leaders. I think we're having, and I think the world of AI is exposing that more than ever. I think it's back to, I said it in a meeting the other day, I have a real big problem, Steve, when I don't agree with something. My face, I can't play poker. Yeah. And I think Scott said something to me the other day. He said, your face isn't saying lying. I said, I've got nothing good to say. I need to process that. So I think there's a huge challenge where I think it's going to hold a mirror up to leaders, I think, to be authentic. And I actually love the idea of it, but the debates I've had at a larger organisation level is a lot of people don't think it's ethical. But from an IT point of view, and we know this from a day-to-day basis, under your IT policy, your IT directors and your HR have access to this data if they want it anyway. Already, yeah. So I'm more interested in what you think around that. It's the first time you've heard.
For me, again, I think the spin on it is everybody's going to have different ideas of use cases. For me, what I would like for the team we've got out there is, for example, if we've got a team chat and there's people collaborating daily, who are the people that are collaborating more than others? It might give you stats as to say, well, this person's always stepping up and fixing things for this client, where this person shies away. What do we need to do to upskill this person? Or it could be the other way around, where somebody's disengaged completely from that team chat, but they're in another chat excelling. There's that many things for me where you could upskill a person or understand really what they do day to day, what do they enjoy, what do they not enjoy. And again, I think you could probably sit and talk about this all day as to what stats you could pull.
I also think going back on the facility of talking about any problems that they've got in with the business, and you talk about filling in these forms, and if it's where you don't know who it is, if people write something about the company or their team or whatever, and going back to the Giant platform, if that's their perception of the company and it helps the culture, you might not agree with that perception, which it's their perception of the company. So it's not like sweeping your rubbish underneath the carpet and pretending it'll go away. Yeah. This will open it all up. And this is where you can make the culture of the company better and not ignoring it. Because if you ignore the culture of the company, it won't go away. And I'm massive on culture with what I do on a daily, day-to-day basis. And Giant has really helped me enhance that. And that leads me nicely into my next question, if I can.
You go.
So,
Paul, you're a pro.
Thank you. And what small practical step could a team take tomorrow to strengthen their AI culture?
Apart from talk to ThinkCloud.
I like it.
That's a really good question because I always go back to going, if they've done the bits that I've told you about, which is learn how to actually hear each other, develop a level of psychological safety, the question would be usually then, what problem are we trying to solve? What is it that actually is breakthrough? So a lot of people think, how do we use AI? I would always say to them, well, go up a level and go, what problem are you trying to solve right now in the business you're leading? Because what I would be more confident in than ever, that whatever problem we're trying to solve will be a combination of the brilliance of the people around your table and the power of agentic agents to work with us to actually create possibilities the distance between ideation and value creation is getting shorter and shorter. But that was what I would say, Paul, is rather than go, hey, we've got some AI tools over here, how can we use it? I would start with, well, like we normally do, where do we see the opportunities? Where do we see the challenges? Where do we see the threats? Where do we think we can make the biggest difference to the way our organization is performing? I like being a chief performance officer because I say performance is really how you run the business now has got thinking about other ways that we can do this more efficiently, more quickly. Can we leverage all the data that we have? At the moment, you actually have your data in one place, and actually you can ask an agent to analyze it, like we have on this thing. You can ask all kinds of questions. The more you give it, the more intelligent it becomes over time. So that bit, that's what I would say. And that's probably a fudged answer, but I would go, then ask the question, what problem are we trying to solve? And then probably talk to a Sherpa. So if you're a SME, talk to ThinkCloud. If you're a global enterprise, talk to Endava. Because what we do then is we'll come in and show you, based on what you want to try and get a breakthrough in, here's ways we could do it using a combination of agentic tooling and that's the partnership we're trying to build. That's where I'd start. Never going to solve it just by sitting down and reading a book or going, AI, help me. You actually need someone who's done some work already to think, how can we help you make this change?
No, I completely agree. And I think, didn't you want to wrap up this sort of last question? Because I think this
It's been a great conversation. I think this is a bit of an open question for us all, but does this warm-up session set businesses up for what's coming in the event in June?
I'll go first on that one. So for me, I want businesses to realise that this is a big problem, but I think it's really simple. I think Steve just mentioned it there, and they've got to be prepared to start. And I think what I'm really excited about is this adoption model that we've put together. It's been framed by Steve without him even knowing it. Been framed by you guys, all our clients.
Royalty check must have got lost in the post,
Yeah,
Leon.
exactly. I'm really excited for the world to see it and just get people to start. And I think that's where I'm excited for it. What would you say?
Same for me. It's like, again, part of my role is answering customer queries. A lot of my queries at the minute is, how do we get started on this AI journey? Hopefully what we've gone through today gives people an insight of how they can get started. But the event in June is going to be huge. It's a full day of exploring what was possible.
And Steve, you went under the full agenda, but the full agenda is we've got royalty in the house. And my good friend Deb Miller, she led digital change at Hull College. She's now an OB MBE. She's just left to go follow her own passions now. And we're going to talk more around IKIG-AI in terms of doing what you love. But hers has been on the ground influencing people with disprivileged background. A college that don't normally have as much access to resources, maybe a university. So some of the innovative ways she shared using technologies, hopefully, going to really open people's mind to show the art of possible. And then from your side, I'm really excited because you're going to show this amazing tool you've got access to with some data, but wrap it up. And what would you say from our side?
I always look forward to a trip up north. It doesn't happen very often, so it's somebody special to come. I think what I love is to go, you've actually thought about some of the practical ways people could start. And I think usually with AI, it's easy to be a bit conceptual, and probably I've been a bit conceptual at times on the call today, but only because I'm seeing it at a different level. I think what will be great is to give people some simple ways they can make a start. So Workplace, for example, is a great tool because even if they don't use it, it's a really easy way to go, oh, I see how AI is creating something that adds value quicker than we could do it. And I think that's the bit that you guys are very good at. And so people coming to the conference, it's how do we give them examples that they could see and use to make their next step in their AI journey? And I think if you build a bit of a roadmap for people with some stepping stones, people kind of feel, I want to come, but if the first leap is Herculean, they don't make it. And I think that's your commitment to practicality. And I think Workplace is just a great example of people go, oh, that's like building an app using AI, or even the simple one of going, I often say to people, look, here's how I built my own financial advisor that analyzes my statements every month and it gives me financial advice. All you have to do is upload your bank statements and your tax returns, and all of a sudden you have someone who's intelligent to help you. And they go, oh, I could do that. So I used to be a teacher. So the idea of going, how do you help people make a first step in learning when the fear factor is significant, and the fear of looking like I'm incompetent, or I don't know how to do this, that's a lot of SME is their biggest issue. Going, how do I take a first step? And I think that's where hopefully we can commit to doing that for.
100%, Paul. You've been hearing us walk and talk about this. What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to learning a lot more, but also I'm massive on culture. And I think the platform that Steve's developed.
No, exactly that. It's like my role at ThinkCloud here is to primarily make customers happy. AI is now a part of that journey. They're asking how they can adopt it into the business. But for me, as a nurturer, I'm in the present and I struggle to see what's in the future. For me, AI is still in the future, like you just said, looking through that dark window. Nobody knows exactly where we're going with it. So for me to try and see through that, like anybody else, I struggle even more so with a bit of nurturer.
But I think, Steve, what I'd love for you to pull apart. So from data, so over the last 12 months alone with the university, I've been running some pilots, being a good connector, being out there, R&D in, seeing what people really fear and love. And I've trained over 1,400 people, lead different leadership teams. And the pattern is so stark for me in that I think technology literacy is at an all-time low, especially the higher up the organisation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Would you agree? My sort of theory on that is we've delegated our technology literacy skills to our thumbs, right? And just trying to get people to log onto the Wi-Fi in some of these cohorts. And I've had such a privilege of going into a Think Cloud client where we control the network and we know it works, to going to having a cohort of 25 different business leaders all trying to get them just to log on. It's been absolutely wild, right? Flipping that over, we've taken and we've elegantly borrowed your model, which is, I'm calling it build a Spark team. A Spark team is a multidisciplinary steering group, but with on the ground influencers who drive change along with the top. And just to flip that over to Dean, because I think, and I'm fair in saying this, I'm saying AI is already here. I'd sent the email 2 years ago that we're already using it. But to make it real for you, I think the last 5 weeks of us running a Spark team internally has made sense. What would you say to Steve and anyone listening? What's been the difference of us using AI 2 years ago to what you've witnessed in a Spark team?
Yeah, so I mean, what we've done is we've collectively brought in different people across the business in different areas of the business, to really start looking at how we can adopt AI into the business. What's our mission and vision? What are we actually trying to achieve? How can AI help us achieve that? And the other thing as well is, have we got a structure? What do we want to? What's the purpose of AI in our business? What problems have we got that we want it to fix? And collectively, as a Spark team, as a steering group between us, we've identified some key areas in the business where it can really help. The main thing, the biggest thing out of that meeting was everybody bought into it. Everybody's on that vision thinking, actually, this can really help. This can change the way we work. As soon as you get that buy-in, the process just starts to unravel. And it's been a game changer for us so far.
But I think, Steve, what's been interesting for me watching this in the background is I'm trying to follow your skills where if I'm fixing the problem, when I'm never going to fix a problem, but we've had some of our most junior members in that team. And also I purposely chose some newest members and I wanted them to give feedback on what their onboarding experience was like and what the reality really is. So just linking that back, and Paul, do you want to jump onto sort of that second question? Because I think it ties in.
Yeah, it does tie in. So what cultural blockers, Steve, do you think you see most often stop teams from embracing AI?
It's a good question. I mean, I'd probably go back one step and go, a lot of the time, leaders never hear the different perspectives of the people in their teams. So certain voices tend to be more dominant. And if you think, pioneers can often close everyone down. So I think the first thing I'd say, Paul, is to go, if you actually, as a leader, whatever the way you're wired, actually create a space where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued and is able to bring their contribution to the table, even that's psychological safety. Because if you think with creatives, what they say first isn't what they mean anyway. So if somebody's talking, you have to ask some clarifying questions. So I think the first step of that, learning to communicate effectively and build relational trust, which means, Dean, I celebrate your superpowers. I know they're different to mine. Leon's, I celebrate yours. Paul, I celebrate yours. We're all different, but we're going after something together and we're going to trust that. We're going to create a space for everyone to have an opinion. The moment you have that psychological safety, then we can begin to talk probably about, okay, let's be honest about what do we feel about AI? Where's the fear level? Where's the self-preservation? I always ask 3 questions. What are you afraid of losing? What are you trying to hide? What are you trying to prove and to whom? Somewhere in there is your attitude to AI. And then the ability to have the honest conversation, which is to say, hey, nurture guardians, we're going to go at your speed because we want you to make sure that actually you're that represents people and the finances and the system doesn't get overridden by my belief that I can see the future and we'll find a way to get there. The moment nurturers and guardians feel they're going to be honored and they're going to actually be the people controlling the speed of adoption, everyone's on. So therefore, it's a little bit frustrating for the people like Leon and I who would rather go ready, steady, back to the future. We've gone 10,000 years or whatever it is. But maturity as a leader is knowing, how do I bring people with me on the journey? Particularly if you've got your Spark team, you've selected them. And the other country, the younger people are digital natives. They've never known another world. Older people who tend to be in positions of power often are the ones who are most insecure because they really have tried to avoid the technological revolution. And what you're highlighting is they've usually got people doing everything for them. So I think being able to bring in different voices, but also your point, go, who are the pure bloods of the digital world? Yeah, younger people who've grown up in this world are going to table that process and to make sure that we're humble enough really to recognize we don't have all the answers, but if we play our role as leaders well, we can have a safe place, we can innovate, we can dream, we can explore, we can pilot. Using pilot with AI is always good value for nurturers and guardians because it feels like we can get some data before we risk killing everybody or ruining the business.
But Steve, just on that point there, can you move me things to it? So, like, obviously, my nemesis voice is Guardians. Scott is a Guardian. So we are like this quite often, and you see this.
Yeah.
But I think the challenge I see with AI to support Guardians is because fundamentally this technology, at the core of it, no professor truly knows what it's doing. And and we've got a piece of technology that we don't fully understand, and sometimes it just gets stuff completely wrong, and we don't know why, right? But we can put guardrails in. But for me, I said this on stage last week, and I'm getting challenged on this, but we keep talking about advanced general intelligence, AGI. That's what we keep talking about, right? Now, I said last week on stage, I actually believe we've achieved it, but from a different metaphor. So what I mean by this, I used to work in construction. I used to run tender and bid teams. And putting tender and bid teams together, Dean, you tried to put a tender together recently. Yeah. I warned you not to go after it. Yeah. I warned you how painful it was. And it just sucked up how much time for you and the team.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, gone. Right. Yeah. Because I've got domain knowledge in building tenders and doing tenders, right? And I've got that domain knowledge. I was able to go create, for anyone listening, in AI, an MD file is a markdown file. Just think of it as a fancy, it's just a Word document with the context stripped out, right? But think of it as a standard operating procedure for a human that an AI can follow, right? It's as simple as that. I took my domain knowledge and I wrote a master file of how to create what I call a red team in big management. And it probably took me best part of a day to write that file. But once I wrote that file, that's what I was able to do 100 tenders for 2 complex organizations because I had that domain knowledge. Now, I stood on stage at that keynote to the senior leadership team at the university and I'm saying, your organization has to change. We've got students in the classroom that have got powerful technology, more powerful than what some of your academics are using. And same with myself. So I actually think we're already there. We don't have to have this AI that's all seeing, all knowing. But that process that I did last week has absolutely blown my mind in the way I am thinking about technology now. And what would you say back on that?
I think you can always tell who's taken the red pill or the blue pill, because in a sense, the changes in OpenClaw that came out a couple of months ago changed everything. So I have another IT VC backed that's a culture in real time using AI. I remember talking to the dev team, and it's like they'd literally seen the resurrection. I mean, it was like they were like some of the best coders who'd done that for 20 years, and our chief technology officer just said, I will never write another line of code in my life. I am now a complex problem solver, an architect, and a creative genius. And I love it. But it's frightening because the things I used to do, it doesn't need me for. Now, here's your point. Domain knowledge expertise and actually knowing what good codes look like because I don't think we've reached the classic thing of the AGI is to go, will we reach a point where the AI is doing things independently and become sentient? Well, we're miles away. The reality, what I'm watching is to go, when human beings, if agile was really the organization of human beings to be most efficient in the delivery of software, the new world we're calling flow is the organization of agents with humans governing that process and actually creates a partnership. Without humans in the process, government deciding, is this good? Does it fit? Amazing how much more you can now do. So the reality is, if somebody said, I'm in IT, I'm saying, so you're still writing code? And they go, oh yeah. I go, what I know is you haven't yet reached that moment that you just described where you go, I believe, and that's the power of stuff has moved light years in the last few months. Not to enterprise, we've already had it for a period of time, but actual individual home users, they've suddenly found the vibe code potential.
Yeah, I think all of a sudden that allows us. I'm calling it the idea economy. We can have an idea.
Yeah.
We closed down an app division. We failed massively, didn't we, on an app division, right? But we can say that we failed because I understood what bad code looked like, and now I know what good code looks like, and because I know what a scope of works looks like or proof of concept.
Yeah.
We can now use these tools. But I think, do you want to link into that sort of next question? I think it teases
I think you sort of touched on this, Steve. But I'm interested. Obviously, you're heavily involved in AI at the minute. So, from your point of view, what does an AI confident culture look like in a business on a day-to-day basis?
Gosh, I mean, we talk about becoming AI native. So we track, we have 12,000, we have a partnership with OpenAI. So how many people are actually using it on a daily basis? And you have basically everything from 0 to daily to weekly. And then you have super users who are using, the top 20 people probably use more than 3/4 of the tokens we used last year. I think the question is to go, if you encourage people and show them a way that they can make a step-by-step process, I think people need usually to understand how to use it. A lot of people use it at the moment like they would an upgrade to Google as a search. The one that I always encourage people to do is to go, how you can create your own context warehouse to create your own financial advisor. I said, so if you upload all your bank statements and a budget in a spreadsheet into a context where you upload the sources. So it's not just you're asking a question, you're providing some data and information that's relevant to you that you can actually check. The AI will tell you how much you spent or where you overspent and question you about certain transactions which are outside. And you can actually have a conversation and it will say, hey, be careful, or whatever it might be. So I always go, that's something where people go, I will guarantee the guardians and nurturers all reconcile a budget with their statements every single month against, does it match up with my books? The fact that you can do that process in minutes and have a conversation with someone who seems very intelligent, if you put in your tax returns, if you put in your various other bits and pieces, that's what I would call a really simple case study where people go, oh my word, that used to take me 3 hours to do that on a Sunday at the end of the month. I now can do that just by downloading the files from my bank accounts, uploading it into a context warehouse, and I'm good to go. So that's the bit that I would say to people is to go, if you look at what the most complex AI is doing, it's mind blowing. Most of it's not there. And if you think of the journey of going, how does long journey begin with one step? Give people a simple demo of going, I and that to say you guys do well with friends, because you've got to ask the question, what would it mean to each day invest some time thinking through, growing through, dealing with my fear? But most people don't even know where to start if you don't give them a few clues. So I've just given you a clue and you go, oh my goodness, we could do that.
Yeah, I think it's seeing the art of possible. I think is the key bit in there. But I think, do you want to the next one? Or is it me? Am I the next one? It's me, yeah. So I think, Steve, this will link nicely into. I want to have a debate with you around your AI culture tool and the problem with. So I'm a huge fan of Giant. We're all huge fans of Giant, but doing the assessment, the cultural assessment.
Mm-hmm.
We found in our own organisation, some people, when you checked in with them, didn't fill it in authentically. Is that true?
Yeah, 100%.
Would you agree?
Along with AI and everything, I just think it's a game changer for businesses.
this is maybe not a teaser for the podcast, but in a sense, I may actually bring some of the AI pod from Endava that are leading with Flow, because I think it would be amazing for people to see what is actually now the art of the possible at the very biggest, so companies that have billions and billions of dollars are now saying, we would like to use this with us. So in a sense, workplace is a very practical piece. Voices helps you begin the journey. I wonder whether I might actually try and bring one of our Digerati natives to basically give a little demo of what's possible at the enterprise level.
Steve, that would be amazing, because I think we're really big on trying to show the art of possible, and there's some done for you tools that we're launching. We're launching our AI adoption program, but I also want people to understand. One of the things I'm launching is something what I call Elevate 360. So it's an AI tool, like you just mentioned, where I've given it as much context about me as possible. And I use it weekly. It's got access to my calendar. It's got every bit of information it can have, which is scary for a lot of people. But it has enabled me to build what we're going to be launching at the event. And again, it's scary for people to go down that route. But I think the only way we're going to get through this is, one, teamwork, and two, by allowing AI to actually elevate us humans to do exactly what you just said, get back in the room to solve some of the world's biggest problems. So that's what I'm excited for. So any sort of closing points? Because I think 46 minutes, I nearly got us to 45. But Steve, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart of always backing us and cheering us on.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you, Steve, for your constant support and encouragement that you give us all the time.
Yeah, same for me, Steve. Again, never met you, really. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. But yeah, the Giant platform is a fundamental part of our business. So great to meet you.
And then, Steve, how can people find out more about you, what you're up to? Let's have a plug for you.
LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to find out about me. There's various links on there. If you're a nurturer by First Voice, you can always have a 15-minute pep talk with me. And if you're brave enough, you can come and have coffee with me in the office in London. I had two from Canada come over this week and kind of said, could I come and see you? So I have a bias towards nurturers, Dean. So there you go. Open invitation, because I think the world will be.
I'm on my way.
I'm coming to you, boys. So, and I'll bring the team. I'll talk to you about it, but I think that would be a really wow moment.
Unbelievable. So I'm going to pause the recording. That's Leon checking out, and we'll catch up for just 2 minutes afterwards. But Leon checking out.
Dean checking out.
Paul checking out.
Steve checking out.